What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Walking 90. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and is joining me is two good men and a bunch of other listeners that might become speakers on this week's Twitter versus show. Make sure you follow us every other Thursday on Twitter so you can be part of our Twitter spaces so you can talk about the league. We want to hear from you, you know. Joining me is Kyle and Chip. Guys, before you speak, I want to ask you this question. Are you going to go see Doctor Strange tonight? And if so, how long do you wait before you spoil the movie?
So I am hoping to go someday. I would say the cutoff is by I give it a week. I give it a week just because maybe people can't make it. Like again, tickets get sold out. Whatever.
Chip, what about you, sir? How long do you give people before you spoil a movie?
So my wife's a big Marvel person, but I've seen enough of them now that I like it. They're fun to go. So I'm going Sunday in between the Cologne game and the Miami GP. And I'm going to spoil it tonight as soon as the Wikipedia article comes out. I'm kidding. I don't spoil things like that. I think that's really lame, but it is one of those weird things because you want to talk about it, but it's kind of taboo. And it's like, well, at what point am I not the asshole for being like, oh, Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch get it on in this one? How crazy. But
well, Chip, I will say, as someone that goes to a lot of theater plays, I'm disappointed that you aren't a big Marvel fan. That's kind of very disappointing. And then also, I told my friends, you have till Tuesday. I'm seeing this movie tonight. You have till Tuesday. You are a full functioning adult. You have money. You can pay for a ticket. Mm-hmm. If you got kids, that's on you. No one told you to have children.
Well, I think that's pretty fair too, because if you're a big fan of, whatever it is, that gives you almost a week to watch it. You can find some time and to go watch it in between now and then. And I mean, I don't know. We had this buddy in college. Name was Drew, and Drew would he had some bum ass job, and so he worked weird hours after we got out of school. So none of us were in Omaha anymore besides me. So we'd be watching basketball games. We'd be talking about basketball while it was happening, and he'd always chime on, be like, "Guys, I'm recording the game. Please don't talk about the game." And it's like, sorry, this is a live event. It is not our fault that your job won't let you watch TV. You're just gonna have to get over it, or like mute the group chat, or one of the other 500 technological innovations that's been giving to you. Because it's like, if you ultimately don't want to get spoiled, stay off the internet.
Right. And be a nomad.
Right. And even if you use the internet for your job, it's not like, there's going to be a Jira ticket with Doctor Strange and Wanda get it on as a title. That's not a thing that happens. So
wow.
You'll be fine.
Stuff like that. That was very inappropriate. I'm sorry. So, guys, we got 5 games this week. I think this is the first time in a while, if I remember right. Yeah, we've had 5 games on the docket. No, I take that back. April we had one, but we got a 5-game weekend. Only team not playing this week is, of course, Chip. Your Union Omaha. They get a week off before they play their U.S. Open Cup game against NOCO. So I'm calling conspiracy theory. But I'll run down to quickly do the list of games. We got Richmond versus Fort Madison and the Handy Derby, Chattanooga versus NOCO Hellstorm, South Georgia Tormentor versus Charlotte Independence, FC Tucson versus North Carolina FC, Central Valley Fuego versus Greenville Triumph. So we got 2 games out on the West Coast. We got a rivalry game. We got an old player going back to his stomping grounds, and then we got probably the 2 most high-potent offenses playing each other. What? This might be the best weekend to sit down and watch League One.
Especially for someone like me, because my team's not playing, so I just get to enjoy whatever crazy chaos happens.
Right. You get to sit there and be like, ooh, I'm now in 3rd place. Ooh, now I'm in 2nd place. Ooh,
when Bull gets a red card for going out there and shoving one of the Charlotte players, I just man, that's crazy. and just like not have to worry about my game and stressing out about dropping points to like Central Valley or something.
Man, so I didn't even watch the game against y'all in Charlotte.
Same.
And when I saw like my phone started going off, and it was like Jay Mills has a red card, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, what happened? And then I saw it, and I was like, hey, yeah, I would expect him to be pissed after that.
Yeah. So
we got the kid on.
Yeah, one of them.
Folks, if you didn't know this or not, Kyle is an amazing father. We give him a lot of flack, but he's a great father. Hi there, little Kyle. How are you doing, buddy?
So he's got his bottle, so he is set.
For the Charlotte Omaha game, Yogi alluded to it earlier. I was seeing Wicked with my wife and family. So I saw the first goal go in while we were in the lounge where we went in. And then I had my phone off because you don't turn it on during the show unless you're a bad person. And so I come out and I see 2-1, and it's like, wow, Nevis really bottled it. And I start going through and I look and like, man, we gave one up at the death of the game, the fourth minute of stoppage time. Like, really sucks. Jay's not happy. And for some reason, FOTMob doesn't have red cards for technical staff on the app. So I didn't know Jay got a red card. I didn't know it was controversial. I didn't know anything. I just saw we lost at the death. And it was like, man, that really sucks. And then I'm waiting in line to go to the bathroom. I'm just scrolling Twitter, and I just see a bunch of angry ass Omaha fans. I'm like, what the fuck happened? And so when it was finally my turn to go in, I was like watching it on my phone, and I was like, what the fuck? And, I think there's a lot of talk from Omaha about, was it a goal? Was it not a goal? Which ultimately, it doesn't matter. Like, they called it a goal at the end. It sucks. Let's move on. But the big question Omaha fans said was, let's review. The league needs to come back and do something. Like, you had Peter, the GM of the team, and guests on this podcast going out saying it wasn't a goal. Union Omaha called the goal the save of the week, which, while not directly calling it a goal, I suppose is kind of directly calling it a goal. And, some very, Omaha fans are known for our level-headedness for sure. But, I think it brings up a good question, because I'm in some Omaha group chats and we were talking, and they're like, they need to review it. And kind of my comment was, they shouldn't review it. Even, let's say like 100% it was not a goal. If they review it, I just think that sets a really bad precedent in this league. And while the refs are kind of horseshit, at the end of the night, like, if your team wins, you should know they won at the end of the game. If they lost, you should know. There shouldn't be this, oh, well, we'll wait till Tuesday and see what happens. And, what do you guys think? Do you think they should go back and, with red cards where it's really easy to review and say it wasn't a suspension or not, but they don't replay it, do you think the league should go back for any team and kind of review, or do you think this is something where this is just Omaha fans being their normal salty selves about something that really isn't a big deal?
I would say it's kind of similar to how the NBA does their like 2-minute report at the end of games, where they like go back and review, and it's like, oh, we made this call and maybe it wasn't this. Like, maybe you could do that and just say like, oh, after review, like, maybe it was. Like, it's not going to change the results, but at least it gives the transparency, and it can at least let them acknowledge, okay, there was a mistake, our bad. But I don't know about like going back, because like last year there was that USL Championship game where it was like the drop, like it was like a dead ball or something. It was like a goal or that whole situation. Then they had to like go back and replay it at a future date. But that made sense because that was like a clear, like, that should not have been a goal. Why was it counted as a goal? And it kind of completely threw the results, which also had playoff implications. Well,
yeah,
I'm sure this game will have some type of playoff implications or seeding implications, but I don't think you can go back and replay it. It's one of those where, yeah, they can at least review it and see why they made that call and what do they still stand by it and stuff like that. Just give it a little transparency. Mm-hmm. But that's
I
probably
think
the most
this
you
is
can
a
do.
big push for Hawkeye technology in USL. Like, I've been calling for it for a while. Like, we do need Hawkeye. I'm not like, we don't need VAR. Like, we don't need that. But just having Hawkeye technology to know whether or not it's a goal or not, I think that would solve a lot of these issues. And I understand you get Omaha's fans frustrations because you're like, there's no way to tell whether or not it's a goal or not. You can't tell. So it's like, how can you rule it a goal? I'll say it again. I think you need Hawkeye. I'll just put it out like that.
Which the only problem with that is I'm just looking it up because I remember someone saying it was expensive, but I didn't know if that was for VAR or just Hawkeye. And from this article from like 2016, it says it's £13,000 per game for Hawkeye. Which, for how little it happens.
Okay, that's an expansion. They'll make up for it with expansion fees. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, being on the bad side of the call, kind of my comment as always, it's like when Madison fans would complain about that a lot last year. It's like, to a certain point, you got yourself in the position where the other team could score in the final minutes of the game. And ultimately, that's on you. And I think it's kind of the same thing here. And whether it went in or not, you still let them get this miraculous chance at the absolute death of the game. And whether it went in or not, like, it doesn't matter. You still let them have that chance. And that's kind of ultimately kind of the problem. And I don't know. I think a loss to Charlotte.
I'm still going to debate that Fort Lauderdale one where I don't know where they came up with 6 or 7 minutes of stoppage time and then it went 12 minutes. I question all of that. I'm still bitter about it because that one was I don't get. All the other draws they conceded like whatever.
And
yeah,
for sure,
that's
I think
their fault. But that Fort Lauderdale
and
one,
like you said, I think a lot of it is just the lack of transparency with these refs, and I don't think it's a company secret that these refs aren't necessarily like, there's a reason why they're not in the MLS or in the Premier League or something like that. There's a reason why they're schlepping around, League One. But I think again, if there was just a little bit of transparency, I think people would feel a lot better about some of these calls, and at least it's like, well, okay, I maybe don't agree, but I can at least see why you did this or this, and ultimately this has got to be like a ref's worst nightmare, where it's a shot where it's like you're running down, and the Omaha fans are like, there's no way he could see if it went in or not, which right, wrong, or indifferent, but you've got to make a call there, whether it's in or out or whatever. No matter what, you're gonna have people angry about you about it because it's a goal at the end. It's controversial, and it's maybe not exactly 100% clear even with video evidence whether it went in or not. And so it's like that's really not a spot where I really envy anybody who finds themselves in it because that's gotta suck.
Yeah, but I mean, like, also maybe I'm probably in the minority of this. I don't necessarily always want to blame the refs because it's like, one, we know here in American soccer, like, the refs are very undertrained, and so it's like you're asking people that are very undertrained to make choices in high pressure situations, which necessarily aren't always going to work. So yeah, I think like if we give them the ability to make the proper call, I think does this change? Yeah, I think it does change, but yeah,
I
it's
think
just
that's also
sucks.
where like that review, well, like the NBA's 2-minute review comes into play. Like I'm not asking them to be perfect. I get that, but if there is a decision like that, I at least want some logical explanation of why they made that decision, or them to realize, oh, maybe this was the wrong call and this was why. Like it doesn't need to be, perfect. Like it is referees, like they have to make the call. It is still difficult to do, but at least let us know what happened, or at least take a look at it and like re-explain why you thought it was. Like, even if it was simply we didn't have enough evidence to overturn the call. Okay, fine. That is okay. But I think having that explanation, even after the fact, like I said, doesn't change the result, but at least there is a chance for the referees to kind of explain what happened, or maybe there is a rule that they just missed.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing to come out of it was Mr. Mims, who is a butt of a lot of jokes from some of the legacy hosts of this podcast, has a red card now for their game versus Richmond. So he'll be sitting at the bar with a walkie-talkie trying to tell them what to do during the game instead of there on the sidelines, which, maybe that if you're a Richmond fan, that's probably good for you that you don't exactly have the main man running the show. But that was another unfortunate side effect of this game. And the best part about it, watching it back, was after he got the red card, he kept talking, and he was like, "Fuck it, I got a red. I'm saying everything. I'm getting out my notebook and just like going through my notes for everyone."
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I did not have him getting a red first in USL League One on my bingo card this year. I probably would have bet money on Darren, but
I would have said Jimmy.
But speaking of other,
well, guys, let me ask y'all this: like, how impressed are y'all with Charlotte FC thus far this year? Like, how impressed are y'all with them, and how they've kind of broken the curse of the new team coming into the league? Because in years past, the new team coming in has been at the bottom of the table. How do you think they've been so far?
It's impressive how good their attack has been. And at first, it's not just they're getting fluky goals. It's like they are a fluid, comprehensive attacking team. And I think that is what caught me off guard because they didn't have any attacking signings early on. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we have these attackers. Well, most of their notable ones were defensive players, like Clay Dimmick. He was the main defensive guy, but everything else was kind of all right, I don't know. And then they get Miguel Bar. I was like, how did that happen? But no, their attack's been really good, and the numbers back it up. I think they have the highest expected goals. So it's not like it is fluky goals. This is a legitimately good attacking team with with a couple of players that they're dangerous. So I think that's been the surprising part. Not necessarily the defense. I figured the defense would be a little leaky, but the fact that their attack could be as good as it's been.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too to point out. They kind of feel like Tormenta from last year, just better defensively, where they can create an attack from out of anything, but defensively, can they do enough to close up shop? Can they do enough to, not put themselves in tricky situations? You know. Let's see, what other games we had this past week that kind of caught our attention. I mean, also for Kyle, I know you're probably taking the Kyle, so I'll wait on you. North Carolina loses yet another home game to North Carolina Hailstorm. They get their first win. Real quick on that, Olex Anderson has still not won in North Carolina. Just want to point that out. FC Tucson loses to South Georgia Tormenta. I know we put a lot of praise on Tormenta, but I want to focus a little bit on this FC Tucson squad. What do you think is the issue going on with them, or why they've been so up and down thus far this year?
I think a lot of it's just inexperience again. Everyone's inexperienced besides Richmond, but I think, and to a lesser degree Chattanooga, but I think Tucson's definitely showed their inexperience together as a group so far. And it's one of those ones where, I just think they're taking some time to gel. And most importantly, their discipline issues from last year are really biting them in the ass right now. They had a red card in the 62nd minute, two yellows, so almost just sent off. So it's one of those deals where it's if he hadn't gotten sent off and if he just kind of shrugged it off, would they still be in this game? Maybe, but once you're down to 10 men, it's kind of well, what happens. And what happened was Tormenta scored another goal and won the game, and they just couldn't really go back and attack for the rest of it.
Yeah, that kind of seemed like what happened. I mean, we all thought Tucson was going to be the weaker team out of it just because they lost so much talent. But by the way, shout out to Charlie Dennis. He's doing great things out in Oakland. It just seems as if they're struggling to kind of get things going thus far, and it's going to be tough for them. Cal, if you're able to talk, I'm going to ask you about Forward Madison versus Central Valley Fuego, man. 3 draws on the bounce, 1 loss, no wins yet. Not, we're not hitting the panic button, but what's the issue going on there, man?
Okay, yeah, that game was a mess in of itself, both the weather and the offensive attack. Gets delayed half hour. That doesn't help, but it was really one of those games where the score, that game should have been a 0-0. To be honest, neither team really was doing well in attack. I'm pretty sure Fuego had 1 shot on target, and
One
it was
shot.
the goal. And yeah, it was definitely one of those where it's that was the opportunity, and that is a goal, dumb mistake, which I don't think it needs to be repeated. Like Phil was well aware of it after and stuff. So it was just neither team was good at attacking. And I mean, with Fuego, it's just they got that lucky opportunity to have it. Ford Madison tried, and none of their shots went. I think they had 12 shots, none on target.
Yep.
And I mean, I wrote about it on New Dogma, but their attack.
Which, by the way, check out. We support fan-supported journalism.
It basically came down to Ford Madison's passing distribution isn't progressing in a forward direction enough. They had, I think, almost half of their passes are sideways. That's not going to help create chances. That's not going to help get an fluidity attack. It makes it more predictable for the opposing team to kind of defend because all you have to do is move left and right. You don't have to worry about someone making a run from behind. And because of that, it doesn't allow you to, try and pick a lock and put a killer ball in. And that was one of the biggest issues with the Fuego match was I'm pretty sure Ford Madison had they did not have that many touches. If you look at the touch map on the USL website, there's not a lot of touches in the opposing team's box. Like that is a big concern. And the times that was mishits or shots that got blocked. So it was just the attack is definitely the macro issue because obviously you still need to score goals, but it's really the defense has just made a lot of key mistakes that have punished them. Granted, 3 of the 5 goals, one is a wonder goal top corner for Chattanooga. Not much you can do about that. Omaha was really good in their game and scored 2 goals that were well deserved because Omaha's attack was relentless. Okay, 2 of those goals, yeah. It's Omaha, relentless attack. That happens. Then you have Tucson, which was after you go down 10 men because of a dumb second yellow card for time wasting, after you got the first yellow card for time wasting. And now this Fuego one, it's like, if they just cut out the dumb mistakes, and it was kind of similar to last year. Like, if you can cut out these dumb mistakes, that's what would turn draws to wins and losses to draws. Like, again, had Ford Madison not made that mistake, it probably ends 0-0. And while it's not great, it at least is another point. So
yeah,
I'm curious to see how they respond. I feel like they're going to have to show some risk-taking that has not been shown before. And I know not having Derek Gebhard hurts because he is kind of that guy that would play most direct, that will take people on, and not having him didn't help. But someone's going to have to do it, and they're going to have to find a way to get more. They have to take more risk. It really just comes out of that. They're being too passive in possession.
So I kind of disagree with you a little bit. I think one of the defense has been fine, but the problem is you're spending no time in the attacking third, barely any time in the middle third, and that's what's burning you guys. Is you're trying to build up to something, and you're spending the entire time with the ball right at the doorstep of your goal. So that defense is continually having to make the right calls, and they're not getting a breather. And I think that's what ends up happening a lot to some of these teams is, they have to be on the entire game while the offense is doing nothing. And, especially with how much counterattacking we have in this league, you're Central Valley Fuego or you're an Omaha or somebody like that. All you need to do is intercept one pass on the right side of the touchline, and all of a sudden you're streaming towards the goal. And I just think that's really, it'll kill you because you're turning it over and there's all the wrong spots. And if they can get their offense, not even scoring, but at least in the attacking third, I think it put a lot of pressure on the opposing teams a bit. And if you turn it over in the attacking third, it's not as mission critical when all of a sudden they have the ball and you're attacking third. Your defense isn't set up and they're just streaming towards the goal.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's also the thing. The defense is not allowing clear-cut chances. All season long, the Omaha game was the only game where it was yes, Omaha was getting some really good chances. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, Ford Madison's done a really good job at limiting that. But they're not. But kind of like what you said, it's still putting a lot of pressure on them. I mean, Madison has not had a clean sheet since the second Henry Derby match of last year. So it's been almost a whole year since Madison's kept a clean sheet. And again, that's not the defense's fault because I think if they didn't have – I mean, at some point, the dam is going to break. At some point, if you're not doing anything and you're inviting teams to play more and more aggressive, you're going to allow those opportunities. So that's why I think – it's the sideways passing that's more the issue because even when they have the ball in the other team's half, they're not moving forward with it. They're just going side to side or going backwards, and that's not going to help. Again, that's not progressing the attack. It's too much risk. You can't. Yeah, they have the most possession in the league at 57%, but none of that possession is really creating anything. None of that possession is really meaning anything. It just means, okay, you've had the ball, but you're not doing anything with it.
Mm-hmm. So they only allowed one shot, and that was the shot that went in because Bruno had it bad at. I would even say that, like, that's how they scored against Greenville too, and they tried to do that. Fuego tried to do that a lot against Omaha as well, where they really tried to put the pressure on the goalkeeper to make a mistake. And in Greenville they bit twice, and Madison they bit once. But in Omaha, when they tried to do that to Nuhu was just like, I'm not going to fall for that. Sorry, guys. And like that's like one of the first teams I think I've seen in this league where they like every time the goalkeeper has the ball on the ground, there's someone running up on him, which, good for you for putting pressure on him. But
Right.
once you get to a certain level, like the chances, and especially if they know you're doing it, you're going to do it. I don't think you really are going to convert a lot on it. And really all you're doing is just getting yourself out of position for defense and a potential counterattack on the way back if you get the ball. But regardless, if I was a Madison fan, I was listening to that Talkin' Flock, or is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I was listening to them today about it, and they were kind of talking about it. And I will say that I love how the panic button narrative has spread across League One on just who should hit it. So that's kind of fun to see. I mean, I think most people kind of miss the point of no one should be hitting the panic button yet, but it is fun to see that kind of narrative seep through the league. And
like,
luckily,
it's not
about my team.
Y'all want to go ahead and hit that panic button for Madison fans? Go ahead. I don't see any reason to. I mean, last year, if anything, last year kind of gave me that real reality. Like, okay, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. Because last year, Madison started flying undefeated like their first 4 or 5 games, and then that just went downhill. So maybe, like, I'm not going to get too high, but I'm also not going to get too low. Like, it would be one thing if they were just absolutely nothing. Like the defense was terrible. If they were just getting like scored on in bunches, and if they were bad defensively and offensively, okay, panic button. Yeah, that would have been fine. But I also will give Bruno some slack. It was not a good weather day. Like, I know he's a professional, he should handle it, but between the rain and the wind, it was miserable. I'm sure that ball is slick, so I'm sure that it wasn't ideal. It doesn't excuse it, but I can at least understand, like, okay,
right,
and those are not great conditions, and maybe it is like a little slick.
Yeah, and it's still tight. And even though Madison is in last place, they're 4 points out of the lead, or excuse me, they're 4 points out of the lead, which isn't an insurmountable gap by any stretch of the imagination. They're only 2 points out of the playoff right now, which
if they win Saturday, they're a point behind Richmond, and then everything's fine. Like the league is so tight, and I mean, again, if there's a team that I would be like, I don't know about this, it is definitely Fuego, where it's like, okay, yes, you have 7 points, but you barely scrape by Charlotte, and then you get your 2 wins, pretty much creating the luck, like based off of some lucky circumstances that you also were able to pressure them into. But that is a team where I feel like that attack should be a lot better, and it is not, which is shocking because like a guy like Bielev, I mean, granted, Madison keyed in on him and made sure like we're not going to let him get chances. So I know they like made that specific game plan and it worked, but I feel like they're just going to have to do. I feel like they have no plan B.
And I think that's the big thing is I think Valley or Central Valley, kind of what they're doing, it seems to be the easiest one to figure out. And we already kind of saw them get exposed in Omaha where they got blown out 3-0, which granted that scoreline is a lot closer than it looks just because of the late goal and the late PK. But I think that's probably a good point that I thought of. If I'm Central Valley, maybe I'm a little bit more worried just because of how I am scoring. And ultimately, once teams know that that's what you're going to do, I don't know how sustainable that is.
Yeah, they're going to do that. I'm kind of curious to see, like, okay, will their performance start picking up? They're getting the wins that they need to, and that's good for them. But will their performance start picking up? While on the inverse, where I look at Madison, I look at maybe not Tucson. Tucson not quite there yet, but like I look at Madison, I look at Greenville, and that's kind of like okay, we know what you're trying to do. You're just not doing it well enough. Are you going to do it well enough? While with Fuego, it's kind of like I don't know what you're doing, but it's working. But is that going to continue?
Yeah, that's all very true. Well, with that said, guys, I think we're going to go and move on, talk about this week's game. So real quick, we're not going to go super duper in depth because I got to go see Doctor Strange tonight. Uh, so starting off first, guys, what are your first initial thoughts on the Henny Derby, Richmond versus Florida Madison? How do you think this game's going to play out?
I want to say it's a win for Madison just because I think it's going to be okay. They need to get going, but I feel like a draw. I feel like a draw is where it'll happen. Terzagi's going to score. I will say that will happen. Terzaghi will score. It will annoy me.
All right, Chip, what about you, my good man? Chip's on mute. Okay, so I guess I'll go. For
I'm
me,
on. Sorry.
oh,
Do you guys want to give a quick 30-second rundown on what the Henny Derby is for some of the new listeners from like NoCo or Fuego or Charlotte?
sure. Black people supported a derby that goes around liquor. Don't create off of it. Create your own thing. Ta-da!
And it all started because of a Twitter bet.
Yeah, so
Yes, that's
I think
really
it's probably definitely the premier derby, whatever you want to call it in League One. Really cool story and everything else. It's cool being with both of you who have all that connection to it and everything else. I think it's going to be tough. It's always a tough game. I'm sure that Madison has quite a few people going down for it. I'm sure Richmond's going to come out. I think there was just a story in the Richmond paper about it even, which is pretty cool to see kind of more mainstream non-soccer journalists picking up on it. That being said, I think Madison's struggles kind of continue, and I'm going to say 2-1.
Yeah, I can see
2-1 Richmond. 2-1 Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I definitely think this is going to be it's going to be a close game. I kind of like Richmond is, but I can also see a draw, and it just depends on how Darren favors this game with the big game against Charlotte coming up midweek. So that's going to be interesting as always.
Yeah, I think for me it's just kind of more if Madison kind of does what they did with B11 and just focus on Terzaghi, say, okay, if someone else beats us, whatever, but we're not letting this guy beat us. I wonder if Richmond will have someone like Nil, like Bolaño, like if someone else kind of fills in that role, which I'm sure there is someone that's definitely capable, but it wouldn't surprise me if Madison go with that same approach of someone else is going to beat us, not the main guy.
Yeah. All right. So next game we got is Chattanooga versus NoCo. Imad is making his return to the Red Wolves. Guys, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
It's
I hope it's
interesting.
really physical.
Ooh. Yeah, I can see it be physical. I can definitely see a red card pop off in this one.
Yeah, which red cards won't matter, but for Omaha. So Omaha has this week off, and then we play NoCo next Wednesday. So I hope it's a real tough match for NoCo and Red Wolves, just because fuck the Red Wolves. But I hope it's a real tough physical match. I hope there's a lot of physicality to it. No injuries, because that's bad. But I hope it's real rough. And I think NoCo wins just because I think it's gonna be a draw. I think NoCo had some signs of life, and honestly, with the fact that their whole entire back of their schedule is home games, for them, I think right now getting draws is fine. Let your guys gel, get a draw, get a 1-1 draw here in Chattanooga, and get ready to come to Omaha for the Open Cup. And I think that's a win for NoCo. And if you're Red Wolves, you probably wanted to win out of it, but I think NoCo's going to be towards the top of the table, so getting a draw against them at home is not the worst thing in the world.
I can see this one kind of being a 2-1 Chattanooga win. I think Chattanooga is going to be a little peeved losing to Greenville late. Chattanooga's still decent at home. Like, it's not the same as it was last year, but they're still a team that's definitely better at home than they are on the road. I also think NoCo, I don't think they'll necessarily have their eye on the Open Cup, but I think they're also going to be conscious of, okay, like maybe if it, like kind of like what you're saying, Chip, if they are in a draw situation, maybe they take out McLean. Like maybe they take, maybe not Para, but like maybe they'll take an EVD and like, okay, I know we have this game, but we are currently in a draw. It is like the 60th, 70th minute. Let's get some of these guys rested because we have a big game for the Open Cup. So I can see that happening and then Chattanooga scoring late. So I'm going to say 2-1 Chattanooga.
Okay, all right. I think this game is going to have more red card than goals. So, I mean, not red card, yellow cards than goals because both of these teams are kind of physical, and it's going to be fun. Next up, we got Tormenta versus Charlotte Independence. This game's probably going to break the Vibes record. I already know Ed will probably pick this as their Vibe game of the week. Guys, what do you think about this matchup? How do you think this is going to play out?
Yeah, this is definitely the Vibes game of the week because are we going to get old Tormenta that, scores goals and budgets? Or are we going to get this new Tormenta who's a defensive powerhouse? That's been a shocking thing to see in this season. Like, I did not expect Tormenta being a defensive powerhouse on my bingo card for the year, but I wonder. But yeah, I'm going to say this one's the Vibes just because I feel like both styles of play it's something's going to have to give. Either Charlotte's attack is not going to be Charlotte's attack's not going to score, or Tormenta's defense is not going to keep this up. One of these has to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Chip, what you think about it, my friend?
I think I've been saying 2-1 a lot recently. Let's say it's going to be 3-0 South Georgia Tormenta. I think Charlotte is a much improved team, but I don't know. I just have a feeling about this one. South Georgia's going to score a lot of goals. It's going to be a fun game. I think, again, just like looking at the slate, this is definitely the one where it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this game. And I don't think a lot of people would have thought that this would be a game between two playoff teams at this point in the season. But, here we are, 2-3 on the table, clashing for a chance at first with this game, which I think for both programs, even if it's a short-lived tenure at the top of the table, that's a huge win, a huge moral victory for your program, especially with the year Tormenta had last year and the expectations that most people, including this outlet, had about Charlotte Independence going into this year.
Also, I think
It's not
Charlotte
in their new
Independence
stadium
fans
yet,
to
right?
realize,
Nope.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I know this is going to be soonish, but I didn't know if this was the first game in the new stadium or not.
Mid-June. They don't have turf down yet. They have the lights. They've got the stands. The plumbing's not hooked up yet, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tormenta fans. I would appreciate it.
Also, I'm just gonna say this: I need Charlotte Independence fans or Charlotte FC fans to pretend like they care. No one was counting y'all out. Everyone thought this team was going to be bad. Everyone, even your own publication, thought this. So relax with that narrative. Moving
Well,
on
there
to the
was
next
no
matchup.
evidence. Like, we didn't know who was on the roster. Like, they literally could have pulled 10 people off the street. I would have been like, okay, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Next up, guys, we got FC Tucson versus North Carolina FC. I feel like this is a game where whoever wins this, I feel like whoever loses game is going to struggle for this month. What do you guys think about this matchup?
This is chaos. This is the chaos game of the week.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Tucson's probably going to get a red card. Nelson might get himself a red card. North Carolina has seemed to be we're just going to make this game as miserable to watch as possible. So I'm going to say this is chaos. I don't know who's going to win. I can see Tucson nicking out a 1-0 win, but it's going to be I feel like this is going to be the sneaky, chippy game that we think Chattanooga NoCo is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think here, too, it's one of those deals where two teams that right now I'd say these guys are probably both kind of firmly on the wrong end of the playoff bubble. And if you want to get on the right side of it, you've got to go in and you have to get results in games like this. Yeah, you can pick up some surprise wins, but when you're holding serve like this, you got to get something. And I think both those teams are probably going to go in knowing that 3 points is going to do a lot for their playoff hopes. And so this is especially since neither of them are playing in the Open Cup midweek, it's definitely one where it's like you might as well just throw all your eggs into the basket on this one and go all out. And it should be fun. I think both teams have definitely shown like flashes of something this year, and maybe this is the game where one of them finally puts things together and starts their season off on the right foot.
Yeah, it feels like both teams right now are kind of at the point where they need a win. They need to kind of settle things out and figure things out. I'm gonna invite Ross as we talk about this. Like, it would be hilarious. He will pop on for this point. But guys, latest game of the weekend slate. You got Central Valley Fuego versus Greenville. Triumph. Greenville gets a win. Things are kind of feel like, is Greenville on their way back? Yes, no, maybe so, a possibility. Um, let me see. Let me add Ross in this conversation.
Well, so the big thing here is this is the first home game for, not counting the Open Cup. This is their first League One home game, and it's at a different venue than their Open Cup game was at, and it seems like they're going to have a lot of people there. I don't know what capacity is, but it seems like they're going to be pretty full. And I've kind of watched some of their supporters groups get ready for the game, and they seem to be ready to go all out for this game.
Yeah, Ross, how are you doing, my good man?
What's up, boys?
Not much. Sir, we
Hello.
want to get your thoughts. How do you think Greenville's going to go into this game against Central Valley Fuego? How do you think things are going to play out?
I think this game kind of comes at a good time for them to get on the road and sort of get away from. Obviously, they got the win, but there's all sorts of banged up still. Fuego, I did that. Obviously, did that first game of this season when they looked so good. They haven't looked as good since then. The only shot they had in my game on the weekend was that one shot that everybody's going to. Is that going to win goal of the week? By the way, I didn't see the nominees for goal of the week.
I kind of tend not to pay attention to goal of the week after Joey G didn't win it after Tormenta in 2019.
I understand. No, I mean, I think if Greenville can get a point out of there, I think that'd be great. And just come on and start to continue to get healthy. Not being in the cup anymore, maybe it's sort of a blessing, I think, with the way things are going health-wise. But looking forward to my two games on Saturday. I got your boys, Richmond against Madison, and then the late game I got Tucson, NCFC, the chaos game that you just mentioned.
Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Well, we love having you on, man. We wish you the best. You're one of the true OGs of USL League One, my man.
I am. I appreciate the work you guys are putting in. We had a couple of years there where we had League One fun, which was doing a great job, and we had the boys from Lansing for a while. You guys have stepped up the game this season. I know there's a lot of people in the office that listen to you guys. I just got a brief moment here at work because somebody decided not to put me on the schedule, so I'm just kind of hiding and making myself inconspicuous. And I saw you guys were on, so I said, I'm going to jump on while I have a brief, quiet moment here at Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport, one of my other real jobs.
And also, congrats on your cherries going up.
Oh my God, what a day that was! I was at work, so I had to watch in my truck, but I'm sort of my own boss at my other job, so I made some time out in the field to make sure I got to watch that one, and it was a little stressful, especially those last couple of chances from Nottingham Forest. Of course, that was
I definitely thought, I was like, this could get interesting if Nottingham Forest converted one of those chances. But
and the keeper almost scored. I mean, that was the game I was supposed to go to when I was there in February, and it got rescheduled. And I was devastated that I'd actually got my refund on my ticket because I was like, I could have sold that. Not that I would have sold it for way overpriced, but I could have perhaps covered some of my trip money and sold that ticket. But it would have been awesome to be there too if I'd had the time. But no, looking forward to next year again. Hopefully, they just posted an awesome 20-minute video of behind the scenes from that game yesterday already. Some of the stuff was amazing. Just the halftime speech, they showed some of Scott Parker's halftime speech, and it's exciting times. And plus, I get to watch every game on demand now. I don't have to worry about catching games live. League One schedule is calming down a little bit for me in the next few weeks. That's a good thing too, because it's been a little crazy over the last few weeks. But it's fun. It's fun stuff. It's been a fun season so far. All these teams are very, very tight, as you guys have mentioned, and all these games now, really anybody's game. It's exciting stuff.
Right,
Even with these teams banged up. Madison, I know, coming into Richmond a little banged up tomorrow still. We'll see how that one goes. I know you two will be interested in the Henny Derby, of course.
Be interested in it. Hopefully my team can come away with the 3 points. I'll feel better.
No, I talked to Darren yesterday. He was in a very good mood. He gave. I can't reveal any secrets, but it should be a fun game tomorrow. On Saturday.
Well, we hope so, man. But we'll let you go on and go, Ross. You enjoy yourself. We'll look forward to listening to you on this week slate of games, my good man.
Yes, boys. Keep it up. Keep up the good work.
We definitely will.
Thanks, Ross.
Cheers, boys.
All right, guys. So finishing wrapping up, we have let's see, 3 USL League One team. No, well, games in the U.S. Open Cup. It's weird because there's two teams playing each other because once again, conspiracy theories rule the world. Um, so we got Union Omaha versus NoCo. We got Richmond versus Charlotte Independence, and we got South Georgia Tormentor versus Independent. We're not going to break through every game, but I just want to ask you guys this: what game are you going to be most forward looking to watching, and also what team out of those four has the most potential to make a deep run um, within the U.S. Open Cup?
I will say Omaha has the most potential to make a deep run just because they win this and I mean, they're going to be at home. So that's a huge boost for them. Playing at home is going to be great. They're going to have a good turnout for that crowd. I expect Omaha to kind of win this one. And they definitely have shown like they can, if the attack is clicking, they can keep up with some of these other teams. I think the one I'm interested to see is that Inter Miami Tormenta, just because I Inter Miami's doing better lately, but I'm not sold on them. Like I feel like they are primed for a cup set, and I think Tormenta is a team that seems to be built for this kind of thing. They're built for this type of competition where all you need is a goal or two and it's a knockout. So it's not like you don't have to worry about depth. You don't have to worry about like you just need the best 11 you can throw out there. So that one I think is I'm curious to see in terms of cup set. But yeah, I think Omaha would be the most likely of the four to make the deepest run.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that Tormented game is also not that I count Richmond out by any stretch of the imagination. I think Richmond's a better team than Greenville at this point in the season. But I also think that maybe Charlotte won't be taking USL One teams as lightly because of the tight game they had in Greenville. I think Tormented, though, because they've upset some USL Championship sides, but not an MLS side. I don't think Miami's that great. They might take it a little bit easy. So if we're talking, because obviously Omaha Noco's not a cup set. So the two games, I think that's probably the most likely cup set of the games being played, but I wouldn't count Richmond out. Obviously, it'd be great to have 3 USL One teams go through. But I think, again, the game to watch is Omaha and NoCo. One, just because no matter what, a USL One team's guaranteed to go through to the round of 16, which is crazy. Like that's a huge result for the league. That's a huge morale boost for everyone. That's a huge thing to show to investors for starting up teams and everything else. And I think it's a great storyline about a team going that deep, even if it was through a USL One team. But both these teams did knock off MLS teams, so they're not slouches either. And I think that's definitely the game to watch, mostly because we're guaranteed to see a USL One team go through. But I think both Richmond and Tormenta have a chance to knock off their MLS opponents. So it should be a fun couple of games. And there's only 3,000 capacity at UNL where Omaha's playing. So there's a very good chance that you can see me eating a hot dog on the big screen like there was at the last Omaha home game. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, guys, this has been an amazing podcast with y'all. I always love being on the show with y'all. Guys, as always, spoil wherever movie show you want to. It is what it is. No one can beat you down. I'm trying to figure out how to wrap the show up. Yeah, that's the show, guys. We'll holler at y'all next week. I won't be on the show because I'll be in Mexico drinking Mai Tais.
Mai Tais in Mexico?
Sir, I'm doing whatever I want, okay? I have a plan in Mexico that is to be as drunk as possible from the time
It
I
is
wait to whip
sundress
my
season.
wife for her 30th birthday. Also, I'm trying to figure out a way how to get a Cancun FC jersey if I can find one that isn't a ripoff.
I was gonna say if you find that, let me know, and I might have to shoot you a Venmo.
Right there. But we'll holler at you guys later. We'll see you guys next week. Be safe, be easy as always. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Peace.